Hey, everybody. Welcome to 2020. I got three major hacks that I'm going to give you today that have made 2019 and 2018 and 2017 really good for me. And I want to share them with you and apply them in 2020. That'll help you. Number one is to separate compounding from circadian rhythms. Now, what does this mean? Circadian rhythms is our 24-hour life cycle. It's, sleeping, getting up, eating, going to work, exercising, eating again, and then going to sleep. Now, this is the natural process that we go through as human beings, and we can't avoid it, so it happens naturally. The problem is that we tend to get stuck in a rut and don't seem to grow out of it. It's the Groundhog Day syndrome, the B player trap. We get comfortable in the circadian rhythm and we don't look outside of it. Now, we can't avoid circadian rhythm, and it's not bad, it's good. The problem is we've got to also add compounding. Now, compounding, much like compounding interest, where eventually you start getting interest on your interest, is that you make every day a little bit better. It doesn't have to be every single day. Some days can be huge better. Other days can be a setback. Yep, that happens. But what you consciously do is find a way every day to become a little bit better. And why is this important? Because if you don't, you're going to get stuck in a rut. And this is critical for sales because we get to a certain level and we give up. We forget, or we don't really want to see the flaws. We start blaming everybody else, everything else, instead of fixing and building our skill set, becoming better and better at sales. Now, we see this in other people, but we don't see it in ourselves. So how do you do this? You have to set aside a certain amount of time every day to develop certain skills. Maybe not the same skills, maybe different ones, and just try and find little distinctions to become better. Not knowing, doing. See, the problem is, as mammals, and certainly as humans, we think just because we know something that we know how to do it. And we may even know how to do it, but we don't do it effectively. And sales is solely an effectiveness profession, a performance profession. I harp on that because it is the distinction between the A and the B player. It is the distinction between those who become better and those who blame others and stay in the B player trap. So how do you become a compounder? What you try and do is look for distinctions, look for ways of becoming better, practice things, strategize, prevent things from going wrong. And this requires effort. It is not natural. If you've ever been to a high school reunion or met family members after not seeing them for years, and they're identical. They're just older. They weigh more. They're grayer. But they talk the same. They have the same attitudes, the same viewpoints on the world, and they really haven't progressed. And then what tends to happen is we only do this if it is thrust upon us. There's a life crisis, a health crisis, a economic crisis. Then we make change. What if we did it proactively? If we put together a daily plan, build it in to our circadian 24-hour cycle. And if you listen to anybody who's had any success, they tend to have this built in. It's not huge, but it is daily. Because what you have to do is train that mammal brain. See, what we do is we get comfortable thinking that we know something. We know what to eat. We know what to do. We know how to exercise. We just don't do it. And we don't get the benefit from knowing it. We get the benefit from doing it. And if you've ever exercised, the natural thing is to go out and kill yourself the first day. Then you come home and you're stiff and sore and you don't do it ever again. Now, guess what? That's not the way to do it. You start slow and you build. You allow for rest, you allow for reflection, and you build. Compounding in sales is critical because I talk to people who've been in it for 30 years, and you would think that they are living 30 years ago. Their viewpoints are identical. They don't understand the technology changes, the market changes, pricing, economic changes, social changes, technology. They're oblivious to it because they have been stuck in their circadian rhythm and no compounding, no betterment, no progression. So this is not just reading books, and because that's knowing, and not that reading books is bad, but you have to practice what's in the book, practice what's in the podcast, what's in the course, and do it for yourself. And don't get comfortable in the just knowing it. It's the doing it. And if you could review each of your critical deals, each of your critical sales calls, and get a lesson out of it, and think about how you can become just a little bit better in it and have a plan. Now, I'm going to get into other ways of doing this. So number one is build in compounding into your circadian rhythm and try and really look at it and see where you're going wrong and how to prevent it. Because a year is going to pass. We're going to be listening to this podcast a year from now. And are you going to have some compounding, or are you just going to be a year older? A lot of people are just going to be a year older. They'll learn and forget, and they'll get back into their comfort zone because that's where your mammal brain wants you. Our conscious brain, our proactive human brain wants us to become better, but we have to be proactive in doing it, not just knowing it. Number two is build assets into your process instead of just activities. Yes, you have to do activities. You have to meet with people. You have to call people. You have to give proposals. You have to negotiate. You have to demo. You have to converse. All of these things are activities, and we have to do them. And we should do a reasonable amount with the right people and the right priority in the right way, not just doing them. Our managers assume that we're doing it with the right people in the right way, but they push so much quantity that we don't have time to prioritize them. Now, the asset is many different things. Let's say you're prospecting. What's the asset? It's your network, because talking to people that you already know is easier than talking to people that you don't know. Talking to people they know is easier than talking to people that you have no connection to. So your network becomes an asset, which can compound. And if you did it daily, you see there's a pattern here. There's a little bit of compounding in the podcast here. So your network's an asset, which includes, your LinkedIn profile and page, your personal CRM, not your company's. Your company's is your company's asset. If you left, do you have that? Do you have all the history, all the context, all the contact information? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I've seen so many reps, friends of mine, call me up after they either get let go or quit and say, hey, do you have that person's email or their phone number? And I'm like, you don't have it? They go, no, I never backed up the CRM or copied it or downloaded it. At minimum, have it in a spreadsheet. At maximum, have your own personal CRM. Hint, Pipedrive is great for that. Get extended trial with the Brutal Truth Coupon code. It's what I use. It's $12 a month. Come on. And you can use it as your email system and your calendar system because your company's probably doesn't have that. Or maybe you do. What other assets? So in prospecting, it is your network. It's also your approach, your system, your process. You become the differentiator. You become the silver bullet. Everyone wants to know tips, tricks, pointers, ideas, advice. That's what I get. I get those questions all day long. You're it. You are it. You are the means of production in sales. And if you are not working on your assets, you're starting every day over again. You're not getting any compounding. If you get a certain number of connections a day, your network is expanding. And it's not linear, it's exponential. That's what compounding does. It doesn't build linear. You're not making 10% more than you did last year. You're making twice and then more and more because you don't have to rebuild the asset every day. Your reputation is an asset. Your friends are your asset. Hopefully your manager is an asset, maybe not. But your knowledge is an asset. Your skills are assets. If you do presentations, how you do them is an asset. The slides are assets. Your relationships with your coworkers are assets. Are you making little deposits, little additions to them every day? Or do you look at it as just activity? Now, I've never seen the activity addict be the top rep. And I've been in sales at a lot of different companies, and I've seen a lot of high performers. And what I typically see is somebody who figures it out, somebody who has built their own silver bullet and has applied it in a unique way into their space. Hence why I call a maverick. It's not a challenger is a skill. A maverick is somebody who figures it out. Any of us can push back and bring an insight, but that's a little element of a conversation and getting interest. It's not the sales process. It's not going to close a deal. No one's going to run down to procurement. It's only going to build interest. What we have to do is play the whole game. How about what else is an asset? Your map to money. Okay, if you don't know what that is, check out my course or my book. It is taking your process and outlining it, your business justification. Are you sending out proposals or are you justifying it from a business standpoint? Your questions, how you handle objections, how you prevent objections, how you open a conversation, how well you build rapport, how well do you converse about what the other person cares about? How well is your outward mindset? How is your sales mindset? These are all assets. These are things that you possess that no one can take away from you. They are your assets. Instead, what everybody does is say, how can I work harder? The problem with hard work is that it's limited by 24 hours. No one's gotten a 25th hour. So if you work on just activity, you're going to hit a wall. There's no limit to assets. There's no perfection. You can become better and better without ever hitting a wall. So think of assets versus activity, and maybe make your activity on building your assets. Because is this year better than last year? See, sales, we have this really weird thing that happens to us, especially if we work for other people. And this is what I really didn't like about sales, working for a company I loved selling, was, okay, here it is, a new year. You're going to get a new territory, a new comp plan, a new quota. And it's probably, you get a handicap every year. So that's the opposite of an asset. But if you've built up your assets, you got a good pipeline, you got good relationships with your customers, you have your own system, it makes it easier. And you become so valuable that the company that you're at will do anything to prevent you from leaving, and everybody wants to hire you. So think of assets versus activity, and look how this compounds onto your circadian daily rhythm, instead of just coming up with, oh, I want to make $1 million this year. Okay, that's a good goal. If that excites you, that motivates you. I'm not saying it's bad. Okay, so how are you going to do that? Then you immediately go to activity and you do some kind of math and you figure out you got to make 2,000 cold calls a day. But that takes 70 hours, and there's only 24 hours in a day. And that math doesn't work. But if you have a great network, you know how to sell your product, you know who is a good match for it, you know how to build business conversations, you know how to guide somebody through a decision-making process, that's an asset. And then you can get to work, and that scales. That is exponential. It's not linear. My final one. Now, this hack I discovered 3 years ago, and it has been a game changer, and I've used it every year for 3 years. It's getting a wall calendar that you can write on that's a year. So it has the 12 months all on one page. You can either put it vertically, so 3 months across, or horizontally 4 months across. I like it vertically because it's quarterly. So you can mark out the quarter. And, well, Brian, I got a calendar. What year is this? Okay, that's not the point. The point is you're viewing a year in one glance. And all of a sudden, what I first do is I block off either time that I'm going to be away or time that I want to kick back a little so that I plan ahead for it so I get my work done so I can do that. The other things are either business events, taxes, whatever is in your business, trade shows, trips, kickoffs, QBRs, because those are tough times to get anything done, and you got to plan ahead for them and recover from them. Any vacations, family events, important dates, holidays, and all of a sudden you see what starts off as 365 days and 52 weeks turns into a lot less than that. Why is that important? Because we tend to think of a year, certainly when you're young, as a huge amount of time. Unfortunately, it goes by really fast, certainly as you get older. So what you want to do is have a great vantage point. Now, what I do on the calendar, you can write on it. I grade myself every day, A through F, much like in school. Okay, A is good, F is bad. Now, you can do 1 through 10 or come up with some code if somebody sees your calendar and you don't want them to know what it means. I also put down running times, total time running. That's been helpful because this holds you accountable, at least to yourself. You may want to keep it in a public place if you want external accountability. That's powerful stuff because a lot of people will do a lot of stuff to prevent from losing, the image of what the family and friends think of them. But by grading myself every day, I see patterns, and I've noticed patterns. And I've been okay at preventing the Fs and the Ds. I'm committed myself this year to be much better at it. I typically have the summer pattern where pretty much everyone's business, except for vacation people, it slows down dramatically starting July 1st all the way to Labor Day. And what ends up happening is, since after 2 months of seeing business slow down, downloads slow down, traction, engagement slow down, you start to think this is the new norm. It's not the new norm. And instead of utilizing that downtime for other things, building things, becoming better, taking time off, you tend to get depressed and tend to get defocused. And so that is a struggle. And and I've always had this when I work for other companies, is you start to panic. You think your pipeline isn't moving, people aren't meeting, everyone's away. You're like, oh God, should I start looking for another job? This place isn't going. And then Labor Day comes and it's back to normal. It's just something you have to plan for. And the other part is you just got to have the urgency on a daily basis. This is where the circadian part becomes important. Is that I worked at this one company with a VP, and he had this roller coaster rhythm, meaning the first month of the quarter was kind of recover, goof off, meeting, planning. Never met with a customer the first month. Second month was, everyone got into gear. Third month was panic and give away discounts to close deals. There was no way to run a company, but that's how he liked to do it. And I hated that because I don't like the panic. I like consistency because I want to build assets. I don't want to just have activity. So I came up with my pattern where I would move the end of the quarter up 2 weeks so that I always had that 2-week cushion. I would put that into my rhythm. And that became insanely powerful because a lot of deals, of course, wouldn't close by that artificial date, but they'd close the following week or two. And I was very predictable on my forecasting and didn't get that look at the beginning of the next quarter, that you let me down look that you get from your manager. You're like, oh boy. And that worked for me. And I didn't have the year-long calendar at that time. I looked at maybe the monthly calendar. Now, this is another distinction. You probably say, well, I've got a calendar on my computer, on my phone, on my tablet. Why do I need it on the wall? Because on the wall, having it be physical, preferably right next to your door. I have it right next to the door to my office. So every time I exit the office, I see it. And I see the F and the D. Okay, put a couple of A's up there. And before I shut down for the day, I grade myself. And I try and be harsh. And because I know what an A is, you define what an A is. A, whatever it is for you, what you did those days. Now, this has also been a huge time management tool for me because I always time block. Every day has a theme, Monday through Friday, and Saturday too. This was the first year I took a whole day off once a week. And this year, I'm going to try and take at least a day and a half to 2 days off because I've been working for you guys really hard. I really have. So by doing that, your body and your brain gets used to it, gets comfortable with it, and you're able to do a whole lot more because there's not context switching. You're not trying to do podcast interview, one-on-ones, sales calls all on one day. You segment them out. You've become comfortable with that. And you get to fly in a private jet like you see behind me. So those are the three for me. And I think if you apply them, get the wall. It's $20 on Amazon. Get it so you can write on it. Put it somewhere that you see it daily, either at the office or at home. If that doesn't work, find some way. Even if you have a notebook, grade yourself every day. What you want to do, though, is have visibility to the year as a whole unit of time. Because the year is going to pass whether you are super productive and crush your number or you slack. It's going to pass. And this is why New Year's resolutions are hard. It's like if you just build it into your day and you grade yourself, did I do it? Yes or no? Whether it's a push-up, a run, a cold call, a meeting, a prospecting hour, whatever it is, a blitz. Did you do it? Yes or no? It's binary. Okay. Then how well did you do it? Okay. Was it an A level day? And whatever that means to you. And once you get used to what an A level day is, redefine it. Make it a little bit tougher. Get a little compounding there. How do you like that? And it becomes an asset. See, it all comes together in the very end. Those are my three. I hope you enjoyed them. I did an episode a couple weeks ago about 2019. I got big things planned for everybody listening that are going to come up this year. I'll announce them when they're ready, as opposed to pre-announce them. If you want to check out the courses at b2brevenue.com, two major ones. Start the conversation, get the meeting. This is evolved from a prospecting meeting course into a business conversation course. Still has the original stuff, but now, of course, what I found was even when people got the conversation, got them on the phone, building it into a meeting and then that meeting into a deal wasn't natural. So I added that to the course with tons of examples through one-on-ones, which is a 30-minute Zoom call with me that's recorded and put in the course anonymously. No one knows your name, your product, your company, your customer. Totally anonymous. So what ends up happening is with each student, the course becomes compounding. You see what I'm doing here? What I tried to do with the office hours and the one-on-ones is like, how do I use this great content to increase the value of the course? Record it, edit it, put it up in the course. That way everyone gets to hear other examples and it becomes, not just exercises, but more samples and case studies of how to become great at it. The other course is closing the complex sale. Nobody teaches this. People teach about how to get interest, how to negotiate, how to present, how to have a solution, how to have a conversation. But nobody explains how large companies make product and service selections and how to keep control over it. Because our customers don't go to decision-making school. Decision U is empty because they haven't built it yet. Because companies don't want to spend money. They want to make money. What we have to do is teach them how to buy, how to change, how to become better. And that's what this course does, is it shows you how companies buy. And this is based off of me selling for 30 years. And no one taught me, right? Because no one really knew how to explain it. A lot of people were good at it, but they couldn't tell you why. What I did is I mapped it all out into the gory little details and explain why you have to do certain things at each step. Now, would this be powerful? If it closes one incremental deal, the courses pay for themselves. And the whole courses are built off of this asset and compounding mindset versus activity. I'm not going to try and convince you to work harder. I'm going to show you how to work smart, how to work correctly with the right people who can and will buy. So go to b2brevenue.com. You can either sign up or schedule a time to talk to me further about it. I put all the frequently asked questions in the show notes. I have a sample email in the show notes of how to get your manager to pay for it if you want. The prices are very reasonable. One's pretty much at a lunch price and the other one's at a dinner price per month. But it is a 12-month commitment. It is not a membership. It's not the type of thing that it's not about learning it. It's about learning it, doing it, applying it, listening to it, and becoming better at it. And a year is a good amount of time to become really good at what you do for a living. And no one's going to teach you this at work, right? They're going to have some guy who sold 15 years ago come in and teach you what worked 20 years ago. It's a brutal truth coupon code, all one word. The best CRM out there, super powerful and easy to use. And we'll see you next time.